And welcome back to episode 115 of the Weekly Tech Round with me, Jay.
And me, Carl.
How are you doing, Carl?
Cold.
Yes,
Caroling on the green. It is chilly out there.
caroling on the green. Sounds like some kind of quaint English custom, doesn't it? We've been caroling on the green this
Oh,
evening.
yeah, we had mulled wine and yeah.
Ah, well, yes, I have. I have not ventured far this weekend. It's been exceptionally cold here in the UK, hasn't it? Well, I think it's been as low as -6 or 7 on some nights in the last
I
week,
think
isn't it? It's
so,
been
yeah.
very chilly. Though the highlight of the highlight of the weekend, I should say, was the Artemis mission returning. I know you haven't watched it yet, but as I called up and watched the live splashdown of the Orion capsule as it touched the Earth. No, that's wrong. Touched the sea off the
Yep.
coast of Mexico near Guadalupe Island, and it's I think a momentous moment in human spacefaring history because whilst it's kind of a bit of a retro thing, isn't it, with touchdowns as opposed to kind of landings with the
Yeah.
shuttle. It does mark the return to the moon. I know we didn't land on the moon this time, but we're going back.
Yeah. I just want to say it's an expensive point in human history.
Well, yes, spaceflight though has never been particularly cheap, though, has it? Let's be honest.
Not when you've got an SLS, no.
No. What that should stand for, like, cost a lot of money.
Should do, yeah.
Right, talking of money, then let's get this show on the road this week. So this week we are going to be talking Meta. Oh, Google, sorry. We're going to talk LastPass breaches. We're going to talk more security with Anchor, and the Tech Rat Rumor Mill comes back for a little bit of a peek into the iPhone, Apple Rumor Mill, I should say, this week. But we also have an update on the Microsoft, Activision Blizzard. I want to say acquisition, but at the moment it feels just like a business transaction that's going wrong rapidly.
Yeah.
But let's kick off the first story of the week then, which is our friends over at Meta getting, fined again. I think is the way to describe it.
They're definitely on the naughty list. I would say.
They're definitely not. Yeah, they're not going to be on the good list for Christmas, are they?
No.
Zuckerberg better write a new list.
Yeah, they've had a GDPR fine, haven't they?
One expensive one.
265 million euros, along with being forced to take a range of remedial actions to bring its processing into compliance. I think this is due to this was a breach, wasn't it, or a threat actor back April 2021, I want to say, and they managed to scrape a massive amount of personal user data from Facebook and then leak it online. So these are the repercussions of that breach, lack of proper processing, or whatever you want to call it.
I think all of the above, quite frankly. I think it's the only way to really say it. But what it proves, again, is that the EU is not afraid to wheel out the GDPR baton, is it?
It's still not a 10% fine, though. I want to see the first 10% of their global revenue fine come in.
I didn't see. Yeah, I think I was going to say in the same breath of them, applauding them for wielding the regulation and finding these companies. Yeah, I don't think they've got the balls though to really say, yeah, we're going to fine you 10% of global revenue. I think
no.
That, or I don't know whether they feel there hasn't been a big enough risk.
Was the Cambridge Analytica one not big enough?
Well, clearly not.
Was Experian, who lost all our data, personal fashion, was that not big enough?
No,
I think those two probably were big enough.
I suspect they probably were, but yeah, they have not. They haven't got that far. But yeah, like I say, $275 million. Approximately 265 million euro. Not far apart these days.
No. I think the tagline was that it was Meta's failure to build data protection by design and by default into their product.
Yeah, but this is just like the same story over and over again with Meta. There's never any actual. I don't think any actual remediation beyond following the letter of the fine, and then
because what's the 265 million fine after how long's it been? Nearly over a year and a half.
Yeah. I mean,
it's nothing to them.
No, and Meta's revenue last year was close to $118 billion.
Yeah.
So
exactly. This is nothing to them. It's barely even a slap on the back of the hand.
Yeah. So they're and they would write this into their profit and loss, wouldn't they? And given actually that I think their their quarterly profit, quarterly revenue, excuse me, not profit, quarterly revenue was around 30 billion at the end of September. You're right, $275 million is just a dip in the ocean, isn't it? It's not going to cause them major issues.
No, not
But
at all.
but then again, this isn't the first fine they've had, and nor is it going to be the last either, is it?
No,
Given that they're
hence
now
why
also
I think they need one of those 10% of their profit fines,
well,
or
it is
turnover, or whatever it was. Something that's actually going to make them stand up and take notice.
the problem. I think that will happen though if the EU goes for that, it won't work. I think they'll get countersued and it'll end up being dragged through the courts. I think more, and I mean that more than the usual, appeal process. I think it'll be taken to a serious point of where that's too much money, so to speak. I'm not
How many
suggesting it's
times
right.
have you got to lose
Oh,
use the data before before something actually happens?
Well,
Maybe
that's
send Zuckerberg to prison for 18 months.
but that's the thing though. He wouldn't go down. It'd be one of his lieutenants, wouldn't it, that would take the fall. So
whoever we can find in the EU, because you're not going to get an extradition order from the US for him, are you?
Oh yeah, right. Can you see that? It comes in, they just look at it and be like, "All right, next one."
Or they might look at it and go, "You know what? You did us a favour. Take him."
Well, I was going to say, you never know. Actually, yeah, that could be like, "Yeah, all right then. Yeah, fine, fair enough."
Yeah. Do you want Trump along with that?
Well, careful what you wish for. So, like I say, this isn't the only story this week, though, that includes Meta getting a slap on the wrist. So they've also a bit of hot water, aren't they, as well, in terms of being sued now by some anonymous plaintiffs concerning tax records, isn't it?
It's more bad design, really. So
again, yes.
So yeah, these anonymous plaintiffs who filed their taxes online in 2020 using products such as these are American products, H&R Block, basically, but now it's come to like the H&R Block and other popular US tax filing websites, Tax Act, Tax Slayer. They mean nothing to me, but apparently they've been sending users sensitive financial information to Meta for its pixel tracking tool. So Pixel's a piece of code companies can embed on their websites, so they can track visitors' activities, identify Facebook and Instagram users to target with ads. But now it seems that by default, the service sends all inputted data in any forms to Meta.
Well, this is because, isn't it, in the US, you have to, so here in the, I guess for anybody's kind of thinking, what the hell, why are we complaining about this? And if you're not in the US, for example, here in the UK, you don't necessarily have to file your taxes every year as a citizen or as a private individual. No. You only have to do that in certain circumstances, isn't it? So if you are a director of a company, or you are self-employed, or you earn over a certain amount of money, you have to do what's
doesn't
called...
like you.
Yeah, so HMRC doesn't like you. And that's His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. I remember.
It is indeed.
You have to do what's called self-assessment, which is exactly what it says on the tin, or you can leverage the services of an accountant. But of course, our US friends have to file their taxes every year, don't they, to the IRS?
They do, yeah, and every single one.
And there is a whole range of software that allows you to do that. And as you say, is it H&R Blocked in there? Is it Tax Slayer, Tax Act, Intuit, TurboTax, Jackson Hewitt Online, Liberty, and it goes on and on. I mean, there are so many pieces of software here that can be leveraged to do it, isn't there?
Yeah.
And they cost money. That's the other bit that makes me laugh. Yeah. They're not free. They're actually quite
meant
expensive.
To be. The government has an act that says they're meant to. Each of these companies that do have a pay product are meant to offer a free product which has enough to actually file your taxes. Though I think we've run a story on that before with QuickBooks, haven't we?
We did.
About how they've been hiding that and they were sued for it.
We did run that. I recall that. Yeah, exactly. It was not particularly well.
No, bait and switch was usually the term.
I think that probably was right, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So this is around, like you say. So these companies have been leveraging the Google technology, then you say to.
No, Meta's not Google's.
Sorry. Yes, that's the problem. There's too many people getting sued for data privacy.
They are.
Sorry. Yes.
Because it's called pixel tracking. That's why.
That's it. That's what's done it. That's exactly what did it. I think I've read pixel in my notes. But this is not an unusual thing, is it? A lot of these companies are capturing data. They're going to be using third-party systems. So, this Pixel tool here isn't unlike many other ad tracking tools. And you and I both use our pie holes. one of the things we block is tracking, and you get a sense of how many tracking applications or services there are, don't you? By
a
just
massive
seeing the
amount,
logs,
yeah.
and it's unbelievable. And also, it's interesting how many things break when you
Yeah. When
block
you
some of
take
those tracking services.
the tracking and the adverts out, things like to break. It's like they designed the site to break if they couldn't get ads on there or track you.
Yeah. So, so apparently, though, so Meta though turned around, didn't they? They said that according to them,
Yeah.
the system is supposed to stop advertisers from sharing any data, isn't it?
Yeah. What was it? It says that, so advertisers are prohibited from sharing personal information, and it also uses automated systems that can filter out sensitive content sent through Pixel. And
Yeah.
that Meta does require businesses that use Pixel to have lawful rights to collect, use, and share user data. However, the plaintiffs, they kind of argue that Meta makes no effort to actually enforce that rule, and instead relies on a kind of a broken honor system that basically resulted in repeated documented violations of this. Hence why they're now suing them.
And I knew Google. Look, I knew. I just looking down the rest of my page. I knew I'd written Google for a reason because there was another company, Tax Act, that was leveraging Google's analytics system, and they've been done as well for this. I
Right,
knew.
okay.
I knew. I was like doubting myself. I'm like, yeah. So Google's statement, though, on the other hand, said that they had, I quote, strict policies against using targeted ads using sensitive content, and it should be using anonymized analytics to avoid linking it to users. Well, clearly that's not true either, is it? Then,
If it's one of those ones that isn't on by default, people won't change it.
not at all. Why would you? Yeah, but I guess the thing that we have to state here is that there is no accusation of wrongdoing, is there? Because there's no statement of whether the data was being misused, or whether it was, but being nefarious reasons. But
it's better.
It's better, and it's gathering information without permission. That's the key thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and the IRS apparently require that any of these tax firms that use, what they call them, tax preparation services, don't they? Must obtain signed consent for using any of the information that they gather beyond the use of the actual tax return of the IRS.
So they're not doing that, I'm sure.
No, there's got to be, it's meant to be a pop-up somewhere, isn't it? That says, your information, consent to.
There should be an opt-out, and there won't be.
No, or if it's there, it's going to be buried so far that you wouldn't necessarily spot it for whatever reason.
Please sign in with your Facebook account to be able to turn these features off.
Bingo.
Yeah, exactly what it'll be.
That's exactly what it's probably. That's probably exactly what's happened, isn't it? When you filed this bit of software up, I bet it said, "Do you want to create an account, or do you want to sign in with Facebook or Google or whatever?"
Yeah,
and that's what's happened. People have gone and I've got a Facebook account or Meta account, whatever.
Never,
that's super
ever
simple.
Do that, listeners. Just don't.
But that's what they've done. Super simple, and they've clicked on that, haven't they? And then there we go. That's what's happened.
Yeah.
So yes, not the way it should have been. And what we want to say there is, as you say, Carl's advice: don't do it. Sign up for an account.
Sign up with email. Use an anonymous one or an email forwarding service or something. I was
just going to say,
add an extra layer in there, but
no,
don't ever sign in with your Facebook or Google for something like that.
No, and actually, the only one I would say potentially is probably Apple, where you can again create but again, use it at your own risk. As it were.
Yeah, there is that. I suppose Apple one maybe. I still kind of just avoid that and create a random password in Bitwarden, and there you go.
So there we go. So yes, Meta in hot water, from the EU for and now obviously being sued by US tax returnees. I suppose that's the way to. I don't know what you call them that. But...
yeah.
But yes, talking of Google, then. Well,
Google though. Whopper.
Google like hold my beer.
That 200 and what was it? 265 million euros. Yeah, Google stand aside. How about 13.6 billion pounds or 16.3 billion of your dollars? So this is a litigation, and I hope it will be a class action. It's been brought by the Competition Appeal Tribunal in the UK. So not the CMA, it's the CAT, the CAT. So against Google and its parent company Alphabet on behalf of, ready for this, thousands of digital publishers. So seeking 13.6 billion pounds in damages on behalf of alleged anti-competitive behavior related to Google's ad tech practices. So yeah, it's adverts again. But oh yeah.
The bit I don't get though is and I'm sure we've talked about this before. I don't understand. Well, sorry, I rephrase that. I didn't think we could leverage class action lawsuits here in the UK.
Yeah, there's been a couple recently, hasn't there? I think
But
something must have
they're not,
changed.
yeah. But they're not the US style class
Style,
action.
no.
No, no.
I think they actually have to sign up for them. It's not a blanket one that everyone can then claim afterwards. I think you have to get your name in before. There's definitely some differences there.
Yeah, because we have a lot of these ones, don't we, that come out and say, like what's the one, the Dieselgate, wasn't it? And
yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
and you too can claim your much share of the money that Volkswagen have paid up. The amount of adverts on the TV that you see these days for
they're
them.
everywhere.
Oh, they are everywhere. But that's the ones I kind of remembered happening. But yeah, class action ones, like you say, perhaps you've got to get in there early doors then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think basically the claim alleges that Google basically abused their dominant position in the market for online advertising, earning huge profits for itself at the expense of tens of thousands of publishers of websites and mobile apps in the UK. So the suit is being brought on behalf of 130,000 businesses publishing around 1.75 million websites and apps in the UK. And they're also gone on to claim that Google's practices may have reduced advertising revenue by up to 40% for some of these companies because, yeah, Google have prioritized their own services over the ones of these British businesses.
I was just about to say, are we surprised?
No. But it's not the only suit, is it, though?
No,
in
it's not.
parallel, they're also launching a European Economic Area, or EEA, claim in the Netherlands. So it's not just the UK Google have to fight; they're going to have to fight in the EU as well.
Yeah, and that one also is a multi-billion-dollar. Actually, it's more. They're up to $25 billion in that one, aren't they?
Yes, indeed. And they've got there's current form to back this up, isn't there? So last year there was an enforcement by France's competition watchdog to back them up. Found that Google had abused a dominant position in the Adtech. And was fined 220 million euros for 220 million euros for that one. So, and that was on very similar lines.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if I recall that they were fined in that one again, but it was another smallish fine compared to this, isn't it? Which is 220
million euros is nothing compared to these billions.
No, and I have to say, when I was reading this through and trying to understand the story, I was like, where are they getting this $16 billion from? But it turns out that they've calculated, as you say, that's the loss of revenue, isn't it? Or the advertising revenue that Google have taken away potentially for it. And this goes back to 2014. This is, so we were saying. Yes. So I mean, this is over a long period of time here, isn't it? 8 years or so. But I would say Google has said Google have pushed some statements out, haven't they, saying that they work with publishers across Europe. Their tools and many of their competitors help millions of websites and apps fund their content, and they have businesses of all sizes to effectively reach new customers. And they adapt and evolve in partnership with those publishers. So what they're kind of saying is, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, I think, isn't it?
Well, it's a tack that Google takes quite often, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like, well, what do you want about? Like, we've given you this just because you've misused it. That's not our fault.
Be quiet and do as you're told.
Yeah, but the CMA, I suspect, is going to have another look because they kicked off an investigation back in 2019. I hadn't realised that was still running.
Okay.
Around what they call the dysfunction in the digital ad market in the UK, saying that it's investigation digital advertising a potential harm to consumers through these services. And what they are saying is that the investigation was along the lines of what power do these online platforms have in user-facing markets, and whether the impact on consumers, and what data consumers are able and willing to control, and how it's collected about them, and also whether competition in that market is distorted by certain platforms. So effectively, it's the same thing, isn't it?
It is.
Google are wielding too much power. So it is an interesting point here. Whether or not Google will whether Google will fight this, I suspect obviously they will fight it, but whether or not they'll come out and say, there's value in this claim. The law partner, isn't it, the law firm that are doing it, they're saying it's not about the money, aren't they? They're saying it's about the substance, isn't it, of the publishing, the
Yeah.
fact that Google won't allow a company or won't allow access to certain press and publishers, and stopping their income. That's what they're saying about. But ultimately, it is about money. The same way that by saying it's not about money, it's more than that. And then the same breath saying it's around Google have stopped them earning a proper income. Well, you are stating it's about the money then, aren't you?
Yeah, it's always about money.
It's always about. There's no other reason for it. I mean, I'm not suggesting what Google have done here is right, and I'm not suggesting at all that the claim is in the wrong point. But let's just be clear: this is completely and utterly about money, isn't it? So, the other thing about this interesting point of view is kind of in parallel to this story, talking of ad tech is around where Google is obviously moving away, isn't it, from cookie-based tracking to this new sandboxing, which is going to cause a lot of issues around privacy tracking, isn't it? And a lot of these ad blocking services that you can get as Google extensions are not going to work, are they? There's a lot of concerns about this.
Well, this is to do with the Chrome engine, isn't it? And the version 3 of the framework for using extensions. Yeah. Stick with Firefox.
Yeah, so I'm just in a kind of same way about tracking and data, and obviously ad tech. But yeah, at some point, a lot of these companies are going to be brought to heel. But the problem we have here is, are governments going to overuse the power that they have?
Well, the CMA is very busy.
I can't. To be honest with
you, it's gone crazy, isn't it?
I am shocked at how much the CMA is doing recently. I mean, from not having particularly much to say about itself in its old form, wasn't it? Because it wasn't called prior to, what was it called before the Competition Market Authority?
Can't remember.
I can't remember what it was called before. Can you? Office of Fair, wasn't it? Office of Fair Trading, wasn't it? That was it. The OFT.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, because it was merged years ago. It was the OFT, and they also had another one called the Competition Commission. So they were completely different things. But the OFT, it wasn't that they didn't do much, but you didn't hear as much you talk about. And I think a lot of it was done because we were still in Europe. So a lot of that was pushed, I think, through the European regulators. But now it seems like the CMA, like you say, have just everything and anything they're getting their teeth into. It's like, we need to be looking at this. And no, what are you doing over here? No,
it's like every week there's a new one.
Yeah, it is. I mean, their
How's they got enough people?
Well, their staff must be absolutely overwhelmed,
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether or not it goes ahead. The company that are handling this Google one are called Harbor. Oh, sorry. No, the company that are bankrolling this litigation is called Harbor. And it was really interesting. I wanted to know what they did, so I went and had a look at their website. And their website pops up and it says certainty in an uncertain world, dispute funding for claimants, corporates, and law firms. So basically, it's a funding system for law cases. So you don't have any money,
but I'm sure they want their money back plus a cut on top.
Yeah. So at the bottom it says here they've got 12 years of track record. They've done raised over 1.5 billion in capital. They funded 126 cases, 70 which have concluded, and they have a 76% success rate. And 3 of the case studies they have on their website is a Lend-Lease, which was a shareholder class action against Lend-Lease, a representative action against Marriott, which made me smile because that one was the Marriott one against the data loss at Marriott.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one was about Road Chef, which is a roadside motorway services one here, which is about. It looks like it was something to do with share options and employees doing them. But it was a Marriott one. I thought was just relative. That was there. But yeah, so if we need to go sue somebody, it looks like they're the people to talk to for giving us some money.
Get their number, write that down.
Yeah. So then, from Adtech and Meta, let's talk about LastPass. Oh, we haven't spoken about LastPass for a while, have we?
A while? About a month or two, wasn't it?
It seems such a long time ago, Carl.
I know. So they've, surprise, surprise, they've been hacked again. So this was, the last hack was August 2022. So what's that? 3 months? Sorry, 3 and a bit months. So apparently hackers accessed a third-party cloud storage service used by the password manager and were able to gain access to certain elements of customer information. Now, LastPass won't tell us what those certain elements are of their customers' data, but they have categorically said it's not the passwords.
I know, they're very clear about that, weren't they?
Yeah.
We're like,
Not the passwords, but we
it's
couldn't tell you what
def-
else it was.
no, but it's not the passwords.
No. Yeah, exactly. So, and apparently, the hackers gained access to user data using information obtained from the previous hack.
I mean, it just goes from bad to worse,
So, after
doesn't
the
it?
previous hack, you didn't change all your passwords.
I mean,
I mean,
it's just
you actually set a tool that would help you do that.
I. I'm
Oh,
sorry, I'm trying not to laugh anymore. I mean, I moved away from LastPass to Bitwarden, on your recommendation. Not because you were saying Bitwarden was the best thing since sliced bread, but actually it was a downside better than LastPass. And given that all of the
yep.
LastPass security issues that we've seen, it's probably one of the better, smarter moves that I've done for a while. I still use one of the services that LastPass have, which is Authy.
Yes.
But used for 2FA codes. And I really need to come away from it. The problem I've got though is having to reset up another authenticator is just a pain in the rear end,
Do you have to do it though? Is it one of those ones that pushes you? There's a push notification for that, or you just got to
No.
export your codes from that and import those into Bitwarden?
Probably it's the one where you normally, the kind of authenticator where you go to you scan a QR code and it sets up, and then I go to the app and it gives me a 6-digit code.
Yeah.
That
So yeah,
Google
you should hopefully be able to just export those as the actual codes from
yeah.
Orphe and then import those into Bitwarden or another service.
Yeah, and it is, but yeah, I think you're right. With LastPass though, it's just absolutely
It's a bit of a liability.
it is a bit of a liability, absolute liability. I mean, the fact the CEO says that, their passwords remain, your passwords remain safe, customer's password, due to LastPass's zero knowledge architecture, stating that the company's policy means that only the users know their master password and the encryption's at the device level. Well, clearly something isn't working here, is it? Let's be honest, because the fact
Yeah.
that the last hack, source code was stolen, the bad actors were inside LastPass for several days, weren't they? Moving laterally through the
Yep.
systems. I mean, they've stolen something, and clearly
Yep.
it was worth stealing, so to speak, wasn't it? It wasn't, a stroll through the park. But I don't know. It is a.
I feel we haven't heard the last of this one.
No, I don't. I
I'm
think
still
this is.
interested in what that certain elements of customer information is.
That's the thing. You can't just ambiguously say customer information. I think you
Yes,
need to
either
be a
you
little bit
know
more.
what it is or you don't at this point. And then if you don't know what it is, how can you say it's not the passwords?
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah.
is a yeah. You got to take a step back and think they've stolen something. Something is stored on the servers, and to state that they're safely encrypted. Well, yeah, probably are, but then it's a case of they're going to probably then hack the consumers, aren't they, to target
Yep.
certain data, because why else would you want to crack people? Why else would you break into a password manager unless you wanted
Exactly.
the
They're trying to
data?
get hold of the passwords, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, you and I, like I say, we use Bitwarden. Bitwarden is obviously a very similar thing. It's open source. We can roll our own Bitwarden servers if we wanted to, couldn't we?
Yep.
Or a version here on our machines. We are using the cloud thing, and Bitwarden's free as well. I think you and I pay for was it $10 a year? I think that's all it is
Yeah.
for the premium version. Now, this is not a statement of support to say Bitwarden's brilliant, you should buy it, but just as an example, the cost variation between LastPass and Bitwarden is one of the other reasons as well why I was keen to swap. It was absolutely expensive in comparison, wasn't it? But I don't know. I mean, you got to look at password managers. There's just you've got to think about how you use them, and I think you're right. Device only is probably good. Cloud syncing is useful, and we're guilty of that. But ultimately, yeah, something's got to give, isn't it, in
Yeah.
terms of security here? And in LastPass, just seem to keep on stepping in the stuff that comes out the back of a dog at the moment. I feel it's just like, oh, again,
Really?
oh, not again. Like
Yeah.
it's just,
Tune in 3 months' time for the next hack, I'm sure.
yeah. And this on a completely related story. So I met with a customer on Friday, and
Yep.
who was not technical; they were sales, sort of from the customer side. Anyway, long story short, but we got talking about kind of ransomware attacks and user data, and then we got into the subject of password managers, and they didn't use one, and they were like, "Well, what
Whoa.
do you do with it?" And I was like, sorry. And we had a genuine conversation about password managers and recommendation of what password manager you should use. And I kind of talked about Bitwarden, but I also then gave other options such as 1Password, which is very
Yeah,
good as well.
yeah,
Um,
highly rated.
and they admitted that they used 3 or 4 different passwords that they cycled through their accounts with. I was shocked.
Did you ask what their favourite colour was next, or their favourite
I did
chocolate bar?
well, I
And
can
where do you
understand,
bank again?
but out of respect to this person,
Yep.
they actually were then like, yeah, I will go have a look at this, and you know, talked about how we could change it and use it. So, but it was because
Using a
it just
password manager isn't the norm.
no, that's the thing. That's I think the point was this isn't a name and shame. No, it is not. That's not the aim of the story. The
No,
point was, you're right. It just proved the point that most people still are not doing it.
we've got to go out and
You know,
educate people,
we
and
we
educate your
have,
kids and stuff like that. So it's
yeah,
ingrained in them. When they're young, they'll pass that information on to their friends. They'll carry on as adults using it, and hopefully get at a stage where everyone's using password managers.
yeah. Eventually, it will become the norm. But yeah, I just thought it made me smile, so to speak.
So
But
yeah, actually, talking about someone else who doesn't really understand security.
oh my god, this is just like car crash. This one, I mean, God,
It's not a good one, is it? So
not a
Anchor
good
have
look.
have a sub brand called Eufy. They do
Goofy.
multiple things. That they do things like scales, but they also do security cameras, and they've been quite well received. And then they make that promise that actually make several promises. One, that your data will be stored locally. Brilliant. It never leaves the safety of your home. Awesome. And the footage only gets transmitted with end-to-end military-grade encryption. Okay. Yep. And it will only send that footage straight to your phone. Well, it seems that it may have been bending the truth somewhat. I'm not going to say outright lying, but maybe. So it all started a week or two back, maybe a couple more weeks than that, when some InfoSec consultants, Paul Moore and a hacker who goes by the name Wasabi, both alleged
I
that the
like that.
Wasabi,
Yeah.
they both alleged that the camera can stream encryption free through the cloud. Just by connecting to a unique address at Eufy's cloud servers with the free VLC media player. So Anchor are flat out denying this and saying they can confirm that it's not possible to start a stream and watch live footage using a third-party player such as VLC. So, however, multiple sources and media outlets are able to reproduce this. And it gets worse. So it just seems that this unique address isn't so unique. It's compromised of your camera's serial number in a base 64 format, a timestamp, and this can be any timestamp, like the current time, and a token that's not actually validated. So just create a token, and a random 4-digit hex. So there might be a bit of brute force there. So
Yeah.
remember the bit where they said it's sent straight to your phone and it's end-to-end encrypted. Well, if you can just hit an endpoint hosted by Anchor, and they can send a command for your camera to start streaming via that cloud endpoint, that means it's not direct to your phone. And it also means they have the encryption keys.
This is
Yeah.
absolutely shocking, given the outright denials by the company. I think that
It is.
wasn't possible.
Do you want
And
another shocking fact? Something even more shocking.
Go on.
So, a bit of further investigation on those encryption keys. Apparently, it's the same encryption key for everyone. And I'm not going to say what it is on live on air, but you can find it because it was actually published in plain text to their GitHub repository in 2019. So it's been sitting there in plain sight for 3 years. So when they say end-to-end encryption, it's not like the end-to-end encryption you get with iMessage where it's a unique key just for you. I mean, it's no more end-to-end than just HTTPS. Because technically that's end-to-end encrypted from one server to the other or one device to the other. But it's not traditionally what we call end-to-end encryption, is it? Where it's a unique encryption key between the two parties involved.
No. This is absolutely shocking, because people have bought these cameras under the belief that they are encrypted. You can safely use them. You're storing the data, the local storage.
It's not going to the cloud. It's locally stored.
Perfect.
That's a selling point.
Yep. Yet there's clearly what appears to be on the face of it an unencrypted RTSP feed between the cameras and the thing, and like I say, to use VLC to be able to VLC
Yeah.
open source application to view that, and as you say as well, the absolute um you know absolute horror story that that publicly available keys there.
Encryption key.
Yeah, yeah, but it's terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah. So pretty much all their promises don't make sense, and yeah, they're just flat out lying to you. Really, that's not a good look.
But I think there wasn't it there has been some well, not confirmed, but some changes apparently, haven't they? That they think Anchor have started to roll out some fixes for this, haven't they? But there's nothing official, so to speak.
Yeah, I heard one of them was the fact they just blocked the user agent for VLC and didn't actually change anything behind it. So if you change your user agent to something else other than VLC, it just works.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the Blink cameras, which are great. They're really nice. They store locally to a the SD card, USB, sorry, on thing. But I was really tempted to think about getting some cameras that leverage, the HomeKit secure video, because that doesn't count, does it, towards your iCloud storage?
Does it not? No.
No, it doesn't. So I was tempted to have a look at them, because what I'd really like is the cameras where they're a bit more where I'm not worried about the storage, so to speak, and it keeps going over and over. And I have to say, a little while ago, I did have a look at these cameras. I really did, because I was kind of thought these look really good. The local storage piece for me really was seeing. The cost, I won't lie to you, was the break point. They were
expensive,
yeah, they weren't really. I was kind of like, it wasn't kind of what I look at. But this is, just again, this is just the internet of, I'm not going to say the word begins with, sounds like hit. It is, isn't it? Just IoT failures again and again and again. I was doing a talk the other day to some sort of teenagers. And I was talking about cybersecurity and talked about, the Internet of Things. And I always put a slide up. And before I talk about IoT, my question to them is, who thinks it's a good idea to plug everything into the internet?
Yeah.
And like you get some, some of them are like, oh, it's great. And then you have some of them are like, maybe not.
Not sure my toaster needs an internet connection.
Yeah, and but with obviously cameras, we want cameras to be available. You want to be able to be somewhere and check the security of your property, but you want to entrust, if you're leveraging the cloud, that there is security by design.
Yeah,
and
that design is sound.
Clearly, there is not any security by design here.
No.
Yeah. I just, it just again and again, it's the same old story, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
But yes, hat tip to Wasabi for this eye-opening hack. But yeah, be interested to see what Anchor, what Anchor come out with next, or whether they actually fix this and perhaps say that it was a bug rather than a security issue. I wonder.
Yeah, we'll see.
I wonder.
We will update you when we next hear anything.
We will indeed. So then, a couple of stories before we reel out the rumor mill. So, yes, Microsoft. So you might be living under a rock if you haven't heard of the Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition story. We've been talking about it now for a few weeks, and last week we had a good old chat about the fact that the FTC and the CMA were both sniffing around, weren't they, and opening investigations. Well, this week the FTC in America have decided they're going to sue Microsoft, haven't they?
To stop the deal.
Stop the deal. Which kind of was weird, because only a couple of days beforehand there were rumors that the FTC were going to go ahead with it, weren't they? Because Microsoft
they looked into it, weren't going to sue. We were just basically giving them the blessing. But now they decided to sue.
They've now sued. The statement from them, effectively, I think you said, was basically, have Sony written this, wasn't it, when we were talking about it? It was It was like Sony's lawyers had written the statement from the FTC to say whether or not it's going ahead. Now, Microsoft, I don't think are going to back down. I think Microsoft are going to.
They've come too far now.
tooth and nail. They are too far invested. The CEO of Activision Blizzard also stated, didn't he, that they wouldn't put down without a fight.
Yep.
That's probably because he wants a good payout. Let's be honest.
Oh, golden handcuffs. Yeah.
But prior to this happening, Phil Spencer, head of gaming over at
Yep.
Microsoft, made a statement, didn't he, around bringing Call of Duty to Nintendo, and he wanted to confirm a 10-year commitment should the deal go through. So this obviously was prior to them saying, that they would ensure that opportunity that Sony would have, access to Call of Duty, didn't they? They would have, not exclusivity,
For at least 10 years. Yep.
first party releases on PlayStation.
Day
as well.
one as well. Yep.
But he also now wants to get it out, didn't he, to the Switch? And I think he said in an interview that they wanted to treat it like Minecraft and have it across all platforms.
Yeah.
And his words were he'd love to see it on the Switch. And a 10-year commitment was basically saying that, it would come out on whatever replaces the Switch as well. Now, knowing Nintendo, it probably would be the Switch because they tend to hang on to consoles for quite some time.
They do.
But again, I totally believe this is in Microsoft's best interest. Why wouldn't they want this, as we keep saying, to be on other consoles? Because ultimately, it's more money, isn't it? It's it's not about restricting.
It's the same reason they make Office available on Mac.
Yeah.
And not force you to only get it on Windows. It still makes them more money.
Yeah. Why cut a revenue stream? You're not going to.
He did make a very good point, though. I liked. He's like, and I think they're using this as evidence, the fact that Nintendo is actually a very good example of a very successful company that makes very successful consoles and doesn't actually have Call of Duty on it. Because obviously Sony have made that argument that basically without Call of Duty, Sony are going to fold.
Yeah, by the way, Nintendo's still here,
Here they're doing very, very successful, and they've never had, well, not they've never, but haven't had Call of Duty for a very, very long time.
No, but what I did mention was that they also charged an extortionate amount of money for games, and those
Just
prices
like Sony.
those prices never go down. And
there's never a sale, is there?
And Mario, but they've got Mario. That's the other problem. They don't need Call of Duty. They've got the plumber.
Got the plumber who's got a movie out soon.
He has. That comes out in a couple of months, isn't it? I think like early next year. Is this the animated one though?
Yeah. Other than Chris Pratt's voice for Mario, which isn't Mario, it actually looks quite good. All the other voice actors look very good. They got Jack Black playing Bowser, haven't they? And he's brilliant. The trailers look very, very good on that. Just I'm questioning his accent.
It can't be no worse than the last Mario one. Super Mario Brothers. What's it?
I think it'd be better off bringing the actor back to do the voice for Mario because at least he sounded Italian.
I'm on about the one with Bob Hoskins in.
Oh, that one. So, got you. Yeah.
The 94 one. It was like
when he said the live action.
Yeah, when you like Italian, I was like, what?
No, sorry, different one. Yeah.
But yes, back to the point though. Yeah, so basically, we have this. What we've discovered here, isn't it? That this acquisition is not about any other games at all in the Activision Blizzard studio lineup.
No.
This whole acquisition is about Call of Duty.
Well, it is from Sony anyway. Yeah, it's all about Call of Duty and making sure it's on PlayStation. It's not really. It's more than that, but yeah, that's what Sony are letting everyone believe.
There's no other, games clearly that Sony care about. No other games, So the reason the FTC now is apparently going to sue them is that they have decided that they're going to file an antitrust lawsuit because they are concerned that Microsoft would gain an unfair advantage and reduce competition in the markets. However, I read something the other day that said that judges in these typical cases take a dim view of these antitrust lawsuits, where two companies who are in the same vertical but have no competition. And Activision and Microsoft do not compete.
No, exactly. So it's not. Yeah, the judges like to slap that one down, I imagine.
Yeah, because actually, this isn't like buying up your competitor and reducing the market. It's not that at all. The market here is not changing.
No.
The difference is you have one person who's owning a large chunk of the market. Okay, so then you have a monopoly as opposed to, anti-competitive behavior. Because okay, I know we've said this before. Microsoft have got track record, etc., etc., etc. But on the other hand, you've got to look at it on the face value of what this is bringing, and from a business perspective, as we keep stating here, Microsoft are just not going to reduce their income. They need to get a maximum return on investment for this. And if they cut off all revenue streams and basically made Call of Duty, because that's the only game, don't forget, single Xbox only, then you're not going to get a return on 67 billion very quickly.
No. How about we just don't buy Activision Blizzard and just buy the rights for Call of Duty?
Yeah, that'd be a lot cheaper.
Just to really annoy Sony.
Maybe they should just try and acquire Sony. That would be even funnier.
Yeah. I'm not sure the FTC would like that one.
They should just do it for a laugh. Just put out this press release, or seed some rumors. Seed some
it's a hostile takeover.
Seed some rumors. Microsoft are considering a hostile takeover of Sony, and we basically just want to buy it and burn it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the old days of IBM acquisitions, where they just buy a company, kick the doors in, and that'd be it.
Bury it. You never hear of it. About it again.
No.
We wouldn't even merge the technology, and we'd just bury it.
We'd just bury it. There'd just be a large bonfire of PlayStation. So clearly you and I should never work in M&A.
Definitely not. Yeah. Burn it to the ground.
Anyway. I can't breathe now. Moving on then, before we fire up the rumor mill. In fact, no, I think it is. No, we
got one more.
No,
we got one. We got the M2 Max leaks.
So yes, tell us about the M2 Max leaks then, because this is quite impressive. So,
should this be rumors? It's not rumors. We know the M2. The M2s are already out. We know the next one's gonna be a Max, and then we'll have an Ultra. So, but Shrimp Apple Pro, he's back again. He's leaked some benchmarks from Geekbench 5 on the M2 Max online.
Yes.
It's a whopping machine he's using. It's a 12-core, 96 gig of RAM model, so it's a lot of RAM. But basically, the benchmarks compared to the current M1 Max are showing about 20% faster in both single and multi-core benchmarks. So, pretty respectable bump in performance, I'd say.
I have to say they are. And, let's be honest, I think we're seeing here the right kind of performance increases, aren't we? We're not seeing ridiculous, like they've, completely unlocked this. These are what you'd expect from the next generation up, off the last, the M1 Pros, Max, excuse me.
And the M1 Max is no slouch. So to add 20% performance on top of that is pretty good.
I mean, the M1 Pro isn't a slouch. I mean, that's what I'm using here, and I've not seen that, slow down at all. The only thing that made me chuckle, I said to you when we were doing the preamble, is the Geekbench 5 score is a 12-core, 96 gig RAM machine.
Yeah.
It's like, either that's one hell of a MacBook Pro, but as you pointed out, it's probably a studio.
Maybe it's a new Mac Mini. Wouldn't you love that?
I mean, 96 gig of RAM. I'm like, I'll take that now. What I think, though, is going to happen here is I think we're going to see a bit like the Intel TikTok. I have a feeling that we're seeing, quite respectable 20% increase here. I wonder we'll see a complete architectural change over the M3.
Are you talking major features like multi-monitor support?
Well, yeah, more than 3.
Is it more than 2?
Well,
you got some weird janky adapter for the phone.
It's not janky adapter; it's a display link adapter. They're a respectable bit of kit, my man. No, you can have 3. I think I think you can have 3 monitors.
The M2s, is that changed with the M2s?
M2. I'm gonna have to Google it now. M2 external monitor support. Okay, here we are. Hang on. Live as we do this. The M2 MacBook still. So the standard M2 only supports a single external display. So that's the same limitation
in 2022.
That's the same limitation as the M1. The Pro is going to support, I would suspect, if it's the same, it's going to have to support 2, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's 2 monitors. I think they say it's 2 monitors, and then, or if you're running 6K, it's only 1 external monitor, isn't it? Because of the output.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've got a
so
netbook I could sell you from 2007 that does more
yeah.
monitors.
So whilst this is 20% faster, it's got 96 gig of RAM at least, and
Yeah.
it's got a hell of a. I mean, that 11,500 multi-core score is superb.
Yeah.
Yes, it only will support 2 monitors, I bet. But it's I guess
I can see
you
him
got
on stage now talking revolutionary features and showing a MacBook with 4 monitors plugged in.
you know what? For all of the joking around,
Yeah.
it is a complete. It's just complete failure on my part. I just why
I
did
know. I
nobody
remember when you
think?
first got it and getting that call saying, I can't get more than X number of monitors to work.
I'm like,
And
what?
the rabbit hole we went down with to figure out that one out.
Yeah, because I misread it. I
Yeah.
misread it. I was like, this should work, and we were like, no, it doesn't. It's like,
No. Not with
but
the
no.
Pro model. You didn't spend
They
enough
are
money.
no, we didn't spend a promo. So they are like so, but when we are suspecting, aren't we, based on the leaks, that the next Max N should come out March next year. Well, first quarter next year. So typically, Apple do tend to have a March April event, don't they? That has been
They
the
do.
kind of time frame. So we're probably looking to see M2 Max and M2 Pros, I would say, in first quarter next year. So that's going to be new MacBooks, new studios as well. You know,
Still nothing for the Mac Pro, yeah? Haven't they? They've definitely passed their all Macs will
yeah,
be running Apple Silicon now in 2 years, haven't they?
yeah, they
They've
have.
missed that deadline.
They've missed the deadline. But yeah, we there is a story in the works for next week. I don't know if I can't remember. Yeah, you have got it. Yeah. There is another rumor. We haven't got it this week, but for next week, which talks about a potential new MacBook, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So there is a potential for something else, but we'll leave that one for next week. But yeah, I think new studios, this kind of thing, and we know this as the sun rises and falls, there will be new MacBooks, and they will have the new M2 chips. And the problem with Apple is you're just chasing your tail. It's like a dog chasing its tail. You can't keep up with it. And I think unless you've got bottomless pits of money, you've just got to like bite the bullet, haven't you, and say, right, I've got to live with this now. And it's like with my M1 Pro. I don't foresee upgrading this machine for another 2-3 years minimum.
No.
The only thing I probably would do if I had some money spare is I might get a studio.
Okay.
That would probably be the only thing I'd probably do is replace it for a studio.
That's not just some money, though, is it? That's
No.
a fair bit of money.
I'd have to, sell this and probably put £1,000 on top minimum. But given that I've got an M1 Pro 16 gig work laptop, and I've got the same machine here as my personal, it would kind of make sense to have a studio at home rather than the laptop. But there we go. But yeah, M2 Max looking good, looking quick. No surprises there. So then, oh yes, this is what I need. Right then.
Yeah.
Keep your Apple pants on because
there's more. There's more. So,
there's more.
This one's from analysts at Nikkei. So not only are we going to be getting USB-C and a new titanium design on the iPhone 15, we're also apparently getting Sony's latest state-of-the-art imaging sensor, which will catapult, they're saying, their words, not mine, catapult into a new level of low-light photography. So, yeah, this is Sony's latest. Is it Ixos? Is the name they use for their imaging sensors, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's how they call it.
And apparently, a bit techy for me, it doubles the saturation signal level in each pixel compared with conventional sensors. Or in other words, the sensors can capture more light and reduce overexposure and underexposure in certain settings. So basically, I suppose pimping your smartphone camera. I think we could all do with some better low light. I mean, the iPhone is good. It's not as good as the Pixel range when it comes to low light. So any improvement would be nice.
I have to say, when they debuted the low light capability with the iPhone 12, I was blown away. Okay, look, it isn't up there with the Google ones. Let's be honest, Pixel have still got an edge there, so I'm not stating that they're better, but I'm just saying it was a hell of an improvement on the iPhone 11 and previous generation. Now, the iPhone 14, because we skipped, obviously, the iPhone 14, I think, takes that to another level as well. And the light capture is just phenomenal. So to say that, what they're saying here if they're standing with backlighting as well, so you can do
Yeah.
the exposure settings. I've got to say, this is going to be another amazing feature, and again, one that yes, our friends over at Pixel Land have had for a little while, but it is good. And Google Pixels, I've got rid of mine now, but they do take some damn good. I sent you some pictures. Remember when I got the 6, and I sent
Yes,
you some shots. They do take good pictures. You can't get away from that, you know.
they do indeed.
Though I have to say, I do like the 14 camera. I sent you some pictures this morning, didn't I?
Our cold
Uh,
weather.
of, of the cold weather, the frosty. We had a snap frost last night, and the old cobwebs of frost everywhere, and the macro lens on the 14. What did we do without that?
I do like the macro lens. Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely, it's Sony Exynos would be a hell of an upgrade. I'd be happy with that. You happy with that? I think we should go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Always after a better camera.
Always, considering it's a camera with a phone attached. So what else we got then as we're talking Apple then?
Well, this one's from Mr. Gurman. And it's
Oh, the
only a small one.
Germinator.
Exactly. In his latest Power On letter, Bloomberg, he's talking about the renaming of the OS that's going to power Apple's AR/VR headset. Obviously, we spoke about this before, and it's meant to be called Reality OS. Well, they've filed trademarks for XR OS. I suppose that X being A or V, as in AR VR headsets, but then they've been trademarking this around the world using a company called Deep Dive LLC, which is a shell company registered by another shell company. And I think it's probably registered by another one, and it'll lead back to Apple. But this isn't the first time they've done this. They do this all the time, don't they? They use these shell companies to register trademark before it's announced.
So XROS, yeah, I guess what was it? Because it's Reality OS, yeah. I can see it.
Like Reality OS is a better name. It's a bit more catchy. I mean, whether they're going to use XROS, as a consumer name for it, or whether it's just something they're using internally and want to trademark it, don't know.
The same way iPad OS is iPad, but nobody really says iPad OS, do they? Everybody still says
just
iOS.
called iOS.
But so how far? I mean, so we still haven't got.
Well,
any
this was
production.
meant to be in January, wasn't it? But the rumours we're hearing now is this has been pushed back to March.
Well, we had January, didn't we, last year? Do you remember we had the whole hoo-ha about whether it was going to be launched in April, and then we had no event, didn't we? Do you remember the whole thing around that? And then we now, as you say, push back to next year. Apple are going. I still think Apple will not launch this until after WWDC. I think they're going to want to go to Dub and showcase it, and then it'll be released. I think from a developer, I think because of how big it is and the whole ecosystem they're going to want to generate around it, I think it's going to need more than just a product launch. It's going to need to have that whole Dub keynote piece and then sessions around it. That's just my thoughts. I mean, we could have a standalone event, Q2 next year.
Yeah,
and that's calendar Q2 next year as opposed to funky business Q2s, and have a launch. But this is Apple's most anticipated product for many a year, isn't it? This is
other than the Apple car.
Yeah, well, yeah, which is there's more chance of me, getting a lift from a large flying unicorn than there is of getting an Apple car. I see this on par with the iPhone as a product launch.
Yeah, it'll be a big one.
Yeah, because I think the not that VR AR is groundbreaking the same way a phone wasn't groundbreaking, but it's Apple coming into a market that they haven't been in previously. Yeah. And every time they step into a market, they don't necessarily develop it. They didn't invent the mobile phone, they didn't invent the tablet, but they overwhelm that market, don't they, in terms of capability and product. So I think it's going to be an interesting launch. But so XROS then. So let's keep a view for that then in upcoming information. Right then, I think that's probably a good play for us to wrap up for today. We'll be back next week for episode 116, where I can tell you now we've already got quite a few stories lined up. There's quite a few Apple stories this week. A little bit more around some of updates that have come out in the last week around Apple security. We're also going to talk. Oh, the CMA again. Yes, I forgot they were in there, and venture
They're
capital,
always
and,
in there.
and the rumor mill. Oh, I forgot Elon as well, but that probably could change by the time we get to next week.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that story's tentative right now.
It is, isn't it? And the rumor mill will be back, of course. You can find us on Twitter at Weekly Tech Rant. We're still there. The lights are still on. Please come and join us. We're also on our own show. All our show notes are also on our own page at techrant.online, where we post all the show notes and links for this week's episode and all of the other episodes. So please give us a like, give us a subscribe, tell your friends about us, and you can get us wherever you get your podcasts. And as of this week, we are now available on Amazon Podcasts, would you believe?
Ooh.
So yes, with that, I've been Jay.
I've been Carl. Have a good evening, all.